Hebrews, Hebrews, Hebrews. This is Prophets of Awakening. This is Thursday night, our Women's Advanced Bible Study night, 11th of January, 2024. Topic inside of the room will be reading out of the Book of Ester. Pick up what we left off last week and finish. Okay, you can go to our YouTube channel, The Prophets of Awakening, and check out our videos. We have over 700 videos to examine and check them out. And these videos will lead you to the truth of the Holy Scriptures. And if you like what you're hearing and receiving on the channel, I'm asking you to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. It would be greatly appreciated. And if you don't need to support the channel, we got a cash app at the bottom of the screen. Okay, this is a non-Messianic channel. By that I mean we deal with the Tanakh and the Torah. Tanakh being the Old Testament, the so-called Book of Remembrance. And the Torah is the first 5 books of the Old Testament that was given to Moses by the Lord of hosts on the mountain. It consists of our laws, our statutes, our judgments, our way of life. Okay, and for anybody that's interested, our hours of operation are Tuesday nights, 8 to 10. It's advanced Bible study for everybody, males and females. Then we have reading through Tanakh on Wednesday nights. It's from 8 to 10 Central Time. Then we have our Women's Advanced Bible Study night on Thursday nights. It's from 8 to 10 Central Time. Then we come back on Friday nights, but we're on Clubhouse. And we have a room on Clubhouse. It's non-Messianic conversations, and that's where we have our men's advanced Bible study. You can come in at the bottom. It's a men's advanced Bible study, and then we close out the week on the Shabbat with the we have 2 Shabbat classes, one in the morning from 10 to 12 a.m. Then we come back, close out the Shabbat at 6 to 7 p.m. Okay. So with that being said, this is a non-Messianic conversation. Like I said, we deal with the Tanakh and the Torah. And shalom and welcome to the channel, and welcome to our Women's Advanced Bible Study night. Okay, we're gonna do our moment of silence, a prayer. We're gonna read from Psalms. Then we have our Women's Health moment. We have some current events, and then some need to know information. And then we open up for some Q&A and dialogue, and then we'll go into our topic, which is finish reading out of the Book of Ester. Okay, this moment of silence is for the Lord of hosts, and all that he's doing to bring about our prophesied deliverance in these last days. Oh Lord, we pray unto the Lord our God, and make our confessions, O Lord, the great and dreadful God, keeping covenant and mercy to them that love thee, and to them that keep thy commandments. O Lord, righteousness belongs unto thee, but unto us confusion of face as it is this day, to the men of Judah, to the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and unto all Israel that are near and that are far off, through all the countries where thou hast driven us, because of our trespass, and we have trespassed against thee. O Lord, hear this prayer and cause our faith to shine upon our sanctuary and our people for your sake. O Lord, open our eyes and incline our ears to hear, and behold our condition. O Lord, hear. O Lord, forgive. O Lord, hearken and do, and defer not, for thy own sake, for thy people and your land needs you desperately at this hour. Peace be unto you. Okay, somebody going to read the Psalms?
Shalom. I'm reading Psalm 77. Remember, I cry unto God with my voice. even unto God with my voice, and he gave ear unto me. In the day of my trouble I sought the Lord. My sore ran in the night, increased not, cease not. My soul refused to be comforted. I remember God and was troubled. I complained, and my spirit was overwhelmed. Thou holdest my eyes walking, waking, and I am so troubled that I cannot speak. I have considered the days of old, the years of ancient times. I call to remember my young song in the night. I commune with my own heart, and my spirit made diligent search. Will the Lord cast off forever, and will he be favorable no more? Is this is his mercy clean gone, clean gone from ever, forever? Doeth he promise fail forevermore? Has God forgotten to be gracious? Has he in anger shut up his tender mercies? And I will, and I said, this is my infirmity,
Infirmity. Yeah.
infirmity, but I will remember the years of the right hand of the Most High. I will remember the works of the Lord. Surely I will remember thy wonders of old. I will meditate also of all thy work and talk of the doings. Thy way, O God, is in the sanctuary. Who is so great a God as our God? 14. Thou art, thy art the God that does wonders. Thou hast declared thy strength among the people. Thou hast weighted thy arm, redeemed thy people, the son of Jacob and Joseph. The waters saw thee, O God. The waters saw thee, they were afraid. The depths also were troubled. The clouds poured out water. The sky sent out and sound. Thy arrows also went aboard. The voice of thy thunder was in heaven. Lightning lighted the world. The earth trembled and shook. Thy way is the sea, and thy path is the great waters. Of the footsteps are not known. Thou leadest thy people like a flock by the hand of Moses and Aaron. I read Psalms 77, 1 through 20. Psalm 77 is a reminder, I said. Like in verse 1, he said he cried out to the Lord in his voice. Verse 2, he was troubled, meaning that he could not sleep. Something was going on with him. He just couldn't sleep at all. And his name was Asaph. Asaph was a singer. He sung songs, and he could not sleep. He had something going on, and he was blaming the Lord, God, for um, not answering him, not coming to his aid. And he started questioning him. Are you the one who's given up on me? You took, like he's saying in these verses, have you took your mercy away? What have you done? And then in verse 11, I got out of this, I will remember the works of the Lord. Surely I will remember thy wonders of God, of the old. So he's remembering how things were, his good times when he was happy, when things worked for him, in his and things worked for his parents probably and his friends and relatives, are what he heard through years of how the Lord has done. And then 13, what I got out of this one is thy way of the God in sanctuary, who is so great a God as our God. That means, like, he's saying, out of all the people out there that's worshiping false gods and their gods, his God, the Lord of hosts, is the best God. He fails not. And as we continue to go through the verses, and when we get down to, I mean, he's talking about how God is so good in his remembrance. Now he's telling, first he was talking about how God may have changed. And now he's speaking, as we go through 16 to 19, how mighty the Lord is, how he took the waters and separated them, even when the church, I think he's talking about the Red Sea now, even when the earth was shaking and thunder and lightning was going on, God was there. He led his people through the Red Sea when it was parted. They was dry. Everything else was wet. Um, he just did so many great things. And then, like number 20, when he says, "Thou leadest thy people like a flock by the hand of Moses and Aaron." What I get out of there is that the Lord did it, and he used Moses and Aaron, but he's the one who took them safely, because none of them had any weapons to fight back. If they couldn't get through the Red Sea, they would have been gone because they didn't have any weapons. And then when it said 19, when it said the path of water, thy way in the sea, and thy path in the great waters, and thy footsteps are not known. That's, to me, is the Lord of hosts being there. Is God being right there with them. And that's what I got out of there. Just that you got to remember that when you're going through trouble and things are not going your way, is a test to see how your faith in the Lord, if you can remember what he has done and will do, and what he's doing for you, and you can remember that. It's your test of faith when you go through some troubles, when you feel like all hope is lost. That's when you have to remember how the Lord of hosts brought you from whatever trouble you were in to that day of where you are now. That's what I got out of Psalm 77.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. I just want to hit on the last two verses, last three verses. The voice of thunder was in the heavens, the lightning guiding the world. The earth would tremble and shook. Thy way is in the sea, and thy path is in the great waters, and thy footsteps are not known. Thou leadest thy people like a flock by the hand of. So when it says that thy way is in the sea, you go back to this another way it identifies. You see that it's not Yahweh, but it's the Lord of hosts. In the very beginning, Genesis chapter 1, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. That's Yahweh. And the earth was without form and void. Darkness was upon the face of the deep. That's the great waters. And the God, the Spirit of God, the angel of God, moved upon the face of the water. That's him right there. And that's why it's saying that over here. It says, thy way is in the sea, and thy path is in the great waters. And then you can't follow him or follow his footsteps, because in the water, you don't leave no footprint. That's why it says the way is in the sea, and thy depth, thy path is in the great waters, and thy footsteps are not known. It's because he don't leave no footprint in the water. And so when you understand that he the one behind the flood, he the one that opened up the Red Sea, he the one that's dealing with the water. The water, it says in 16, go back to the beginning. The waters saw thee, O God, and the waters saw thee, and they were afraid, and the depths also were troubled. So that's when the water receded, and dry land came. So we know who that is. It's just that's why I said just a witness. Okay. So
Shalom. I want to say one more thing about Psalm 77. It also brought me to Psalms 23, um, that verse 2, 4. When you get in mind of how good the Lord is, in here it says, "Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod, thy staff, they comfort me." And that's something, when you're going through trouble, just remember that. Then you won't have to um, question, is the Heavenly Father, Most High, is with you.
okay. So with that being said, we'll go into our women's health moment.
Yes, sir. Shalom, everyone. Please know that the information shared is general information for educational purposes only. Tonight's discussion is on stress. Stress is a biological response to a perceived threat. It is caused by chemicals and hormones surging throughout your body. It can help you respond to a particular problem, but too much can harm your health. Stress should be temporary. Once you pass the fight or flight moment, your heart rate and breathing should slow down and your muscles should relax. In a short time, your body should return to its natural state without any lasting negative effects. On the other hand, severe or prolonged stress can be mentally and physically harmful. Everyone suffers from stress at one time or another. Stress is a common human experience, particularly in a world where the demands for our time and attention seem to be unending. Our jobs, health, family, friends, and our finances can overwhelm us. We become stressed over these things because we don't trust in God to provide the necessities of life. He always gives enough, so we need not to be defeated by stress. We are all eagerly looking for peace of mind. It's understandable because the world around us is hectic, chaotic, and changing fast. Here are a few ways to find some peace and calm. We can pray, we can exercise, meditate, we can create time for leisure activities, and get good quality sleep. There is no doubt that stress, along with worry, can be exceedingly overwhelming. It can become extremely hard to pray because in that moment, the pressure hinders our ability to think straight. Yet, it is in those pivotal moments of emotional distress that we need to draw closer to God because His peace is different. When we go in His presence and invite Him to take control, we can truly stop wrestling with our thoughts, rest, and let Him work for us. Stress of all kinds is a natural part of life, but how we deal with it is up to us. If we choose to try to do it on our own, we will not find lasting relief. The only way we can consistently and successfully deal with stress is with the Lord. We must believe, trust, and obey Him. We should trust Him to do what is right because His ways are always best for us. Disobedience and sin can produce stress and cut us off from the only means of peace and joy. By obeying His commandments, we reap the blessings of true contentment from a loving God. Finally, we need to seek His peace daily by filling our minds with His word, lifting all things to Him in prayer, and praise Him in all situations. It is only by His grace, mercy, and love that the stress in our lives can be managed. I will be reading from Habakkuk chapter 3, verses 17 through 19. Praise for God's power. Verse 17. Although the fig tree shall not blossom, neither shall fruit be in the vines, the labor of the olive shall fail, and the fields shall yield no meat. The flock shall be cut off from the fold, and there shall be no herd in the stalls. 18. Yet I will rejoice in the Lord. I will joy in the God of my salvation. Verse 19. The Lord God is my strength, and he will make my feet like hinds' feet, and he will make me walk upon mine high places, to the chief singer on my string instruments. Tonight's discussion was on stress, and I read Habakkuk chapter 3, verses 17 through 19. Praise for God's power. Shalom.
Okay, appreciate that information. If you notice that what was read 19 through 17 through 19, it's the same narrative that's in what we read last night in Joel. The
Yes,
Most High,
sir.
the Most
Yes.
High judgment, his judgment. He had cut Israel off when he started talking about the apple tree, and the fig tree ain't giving its fruit. He cut Israel off, but he always comes back and revive them, bring them back. So same, it's a cycle. Okay. So with that being said, we'll go to our current events. This first one is about how the Vatican created Islam. Okay.
Your Majesties, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for always returning. Trust you and yours are well. And you are loving yourself and others like always. Many thanks to all of you for the support you give to the channel. Thank you so much to our channel members, anonymous supporters, to all of you, my esteemed subscribers. You are all loved, celebrated, and appreciated. So today, I want to take your mind to this whole idea of the Catholic Church created Islam. It was said that an ex-Jesuit priest exposed some of these things, and he said he was told, all right, that a cardinal told him some of the secrets, and it's there. I think it's a documentary, so it's something that you can easily find. All right. While the clip will play, you're going to hear how you get to this information. Now, of course, forces that want to destroy the church that are bringing things like this up is something that Catholics will come out to defend and say, no, you don't have to say this. You're trying to, you're trying to tarnish the image of the church and the rest of them. This is it, Your Majesties. It's no more. But the truth is that, like how the story goes, you're going to hear yourself, right? Now, the truth is, Khadija herself, the widow that Muhammad married, was connected to the church. You're going to hear how as the clip progresses. And her sister as well, who had a very crucial role to play, also had a connection with the church. Now, it was even said that Khadija was an ex-nun. You're going to see how it all went down, right? So when you talk about the church, of course, it still went further to say that the reason why Islam was created was to get back Jerusalem for the church, because of course Jerusalem was seen as a holy place. So if Jerusalem was captured, and if the Roman church have control over Jerusalem, because at that time there was no other denomination. When you talk about Christianity, you talk about the Catholic Church. And before then, there were people who already had this way of life and they were living. You know, you talk about Ethiopia and the Ethiopian Bible and other things connected to Ethiopia. There are lots of eye-opening, right? So, like I said, we had knowledge of spirituality. And there were people who were already living this life of solitude that already depicts that of Christianity. Now, what the church wanted was a power to control everybody. And if they were going to do that, if the whole Christian will have to look at the church as a head and then the person who is leading as the sole authority. It has to be Jerusalem because, of course, that is a significant place. When you talk about the church, we have the eastern and the western part. So the eastern parts do not agree that the present pope who is in Rome now is their pope. They have their own pope. He's not pope, he is not popular. You can do more research. You can even Google it. It's there. We have the eastern part of the church and we have the west, the western part of the church. A lot of things are similar, but they do not agree in terms of sovereignty. All right, they do not see the pope as a head because they have their own leadership. They have their own pope. We will listen to this. You listen to this yourself, and I want you to listen keenly with an open mind and with your comments answer there at the section. We are not free. All right, we are not free because the enemy have been trying. The enemy have tried, and Your Majesties, a lot of things we believe in are just the creation of some people. This is the truth. A lot of things we believe in are the creation of some people. Whether we take it or leave it, this is for a fact.
Picture of the Pope kissing the Quran. The Catholic Catechism in our library out here, you can read it for yourself. Some of the things they believe are pretty interesting. They say in the Catholic Catechism, 841, the Church's relationship with the Muslims is the plan of salvation also includes those who acknowledge the Creator, the first place among whom are the Muslims. These profess to hold the faith of Abraham, and together with us, they adore the one merciful God. There's an excellent little bitty comic book called The Prophet you can get from our ministry. It's like $2 or something like that, by Jack Chick. He goes through the history of the Muslim church and how they started. Very few people realize it was the Catholics that started Islam. They started the whole religion purposely to try to get the Holy Land back for the Catholics. They built up the Islam. They funded Muhammad. They trained him. They sent a Catholic nun out of the monastery. They said, we want you to come out of your convent, go find a young, promising Muslim, marry him, and train him to raise up an army of Arabs to go take back the Holy Land for the Mother Church. Quite an interesting story if you want to read about that. So let's cover just a little bit on Muslims. Ask the Muslim, how do you know Muhammad was a prophet? They'll say, well, he had a mole on his back. Holy moly. That's how you know he's a prophet, because he's got a mole on his back. I've got a mole on my back. Got one right here on my cheek. Man, I must be a double prophet. Got two moles. Albert, you got any moles? Well, wow, bow down and worship Albert, you know.
The astonishing story from the ex-Jesuit priest, Alberto Rivera, how the Vatican created Islam, which was told to him by Cardinal B. while he was at the Vatican. After his conversion to Protestant Christianity, Alberto Rivera exposed what he was told by Cardinal B. And this story is excerpted from The Prophet, published by Chick Publications in California. Since its publication, after several unsuccessful attempts on his life, he died suddenly from food poisoning. But his story should not be silenced, as it is important to understand. Alberto Rivera went on to say, what I'm going to tell you is what I learned in secret briefings in the Vatican when I was a Jesuit priest, under oath and induction. A Jesuit cardinal named Augustine B showed us how desperately the Roman Catholics wanted Jerusalem at the end of the 3rd century. Because of its religious history and its strategic location, the Holy City was considered a priceless treasure. A scheme had to be developed to make Jerusalem a Roman Catholic city. The great untapped source of manpower that could do this job was the children of Ishmael. The poor Arabs fell victim to one of the most clever plans ever devised by the powers of darkness. Early Christians went everywhere with the gospel, setting up small churches, but they met heavy opposition. Both the Jews and the Roman government persecuted the believers in Christ to stop their spread. But the Jews rebelled against Rome, and in 70 AD, Roman armies under General Titus smashed Jerusalem and destroyed the great Jewish temple, which was the heart of Jewish worship. On this holy place, today where the temple once stood, the dome of the rock mosque stands as Islam's second most holy place. Sweeping changes were in the wind. Corruption, apathy, greed, cruelty, perversion and rebellion were eating at the Roman Empire, and it was ready to collapse. The persecution against Christians was useless as they continued to lay down their lives for the gospel of Christ. The only way Satan could stop this thrust was to create a counterfeit Christian religion to destroy the work of God. The solution was in Rome. Their religion had come from ancient Babylon, and all it needed was a facelift. This didn't happen overnight, but began in the writings of the early church fathers. It was through their writings that a new religion would take shape. The statue of Jupiter in Rome was eventually called Saint Peter, and the statue of Venus was changed to the Virgin Mary. The site chosen for its headquarters was on one of the 7 hills called Vaticanus, the place of the divining serpent where the satanic temple of Janus stood. The great counterfeit religion was Roman Catholicism, called Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth, which we see in Revelation chapter 17 verse 5. She was raised up to block the gospel, slaughter the believers in Christ, establish religions, create Christians in North Africa who preached the gospel. Roman Catholicism was growing in power, but would not tolerate opposition. Somehow the Vatican had to create a weapon to eliminate both the Jews and the true Christian believers who refused to accept Roman Catholicism. Looking to North Africa, they saw the multitudes of Arabs as a source of manpower to do their dirty work. Some Arabs had become Roman Catholic and could be used in reporting information to leaders in Rome. Others were used in an underground spy network to carry out Rome's master plan to control the great multitudes of Arabs who rejected Catholicism. When St. Augustine appeared on the scene, he knew what was going on. His monasteries served as bases to seek out and destroy Bible manuscripts owned by the true Christians. The Vatican wanted to create a Messiah for the Arabs, someone they could raise up as a great leader, a man with charisma whom they could train, and eventually unite all the non-Catholic Arabs behind him, creating a mighty army that would ultimately capture Jerusalem for the Pope. In the Vatican briefing, Cardinal B told us this story. A wealthy Arabian lady who was a faithful follower of the Pope played a tremendous part in this drama. She was a widow named Khadija. She gave her wealth to the church and retired to a convent, but was given an assignment. She was to find a brilliant young man who could be used by the Vatican to create a new religion and become the Messiah for the children of Ishmael. Khadija had a cousin named Warqa, who was also a very faithful Roman Catholic, and the Vatican placed him in a critical role as Muhammad's advisor. He had tremendous influence on Muhammad. Teachers were sent to young Muhammad, and he had intensive training. Muhammad studied the works of St. Augustine, which prepared him for his great calling. The Vatican had Catholic Arabs across North Africa spread the story of a great one, who was about to rise up among the people and be the chosen one of their God. While Muhammad was being prepared, he was told that his enemies were the Jews and that the only true Christians were Roman Catholic. He was taught that others calling themselves Christians were actually wicked impostors and should be destroyed. Many Muslims believe this. Muhammad began receiving divine revelations, and his wife's Catholic cousin Warqa helped interpret them. From this came the Quran.
It started to work, but then it failed because Islam got so big, they said, well, forget you Catholics, we're doing what we want. And I don't think most Muslims, which is now, 10-20% of the world population, Islam, I don't think most of them know that they're really started off as a front for the Catholic Church.
Okay. Any comments on that? Anybody know that?
No, sir, I didn't know.
Okay. Okay, no comments? Okay, so we got another one right here. It's kind of related to this one. It's just some like need to know information.
That if we could go deep enough in the past, we should find that the whole of Europe was inhabited solely by swarthy, black, non-Aryan population. Okay, guys, here we are on the American Dictionary of the English Language. This book was published in the year 1828. This is volume 1, okay? I want us to see the definition of the word complexion in this book. I see complexion right here. Complexion means what? The color of the skin, particularly of the face, the color of the external part of the body or thing. Basically, when it comes to the human body or the body of any object, it has to do with the color of that thing. Okay, so guys, we have gone to the definition of the words swarthy. Okay, before we get to swarthy, let's see the definition of some of the words above. Let's start with this one, swarth, right here. Can you see swarth? Let's see what it means, guys. Okay, we're going to read from number 1, being of a dark hue, moderately black, tawny. The word tawny also means swarthy as well, guys. Think of the word tawny as a lighter shade of a dark color, okay? Like, for example, you may have some light-skinned Africans today. Those light-skinned Africans would be called tawny people, while the darker-skinned ones are the true swarthy people. But guess what? They are both swarthy, okay? Swarthiness. Swarthiness means what? Look at what it means. It means a dusky or dark complexion. Very important that we realize this. Now we are in the word swarthy. I want you to see what it says. It says swarthy, being of a dark hue or dusky complexion. Tawny. In warm climates, the complexion of men is universally swarthy or black. So when you hear the word swarthy, you are saying black. Okay, a black person is swarthy. Okay, so here is the second definition of the word swarthy. Here it is. Number 2, what is it? Black. As the swarthy Africans. So Africans are swarthy people, okay? The word swarthy means black. Very important that you understand this definition, okay? So let's move forward now. Okay, guys, here we are in this book. I want you guys to see this book. It's titled The Early Man in Britain, and it's placed in the tertiary period by W. Boyd Dawkins. This book was published in London in the year 1880. Let me zoom right in so you guys can clearly see the date. It's very important that you realize that most of the books that I will show you guys, most of them, not all, were centuries ago, guys. This one is well over 100 years ago. There are others I've showed you guys that are over 200, a few over 300. It's crazy, guys. We are on page 322. I want you guys to see very important information about what this book says about the Spanish people and also some other people who were in Europe, guys. Okay, this passage is called Relation of Iberians. Whenever you hear the word Iberians, I'm talking about the people of Spain and Portugal. They are the Iberic people. Now, this is about the relationship of them to the Ligurians and the Etruscans. I don't know if they still exist today, but these are other people that existed in Europe at that time. Okay, let's see what this book says about them in comparison with the Iberians, okay, the Spanish and Portuguese people. Let's see what it says. Before the Celtic invasion, Gaul was inhabited by other tribes than the Iberians. The Ligurs dealt in the districts round Marseille, this is in France right here, and held the region between the River Po and the Gulf of Genoa to the western boundaries of Etruria. And they, the Ligurs, extended along the coast of the Mediterranean as far as the Pyrenees. That is to say, over the area included under the name of Iberia in its more ancient sense. They, the Ligurs, right, have also left marks of their presence in the name of the Lorraine. Okay, I guess that means Ligur as well. And possibly in Britain, in the obscure term, Lillograin. It's a very difficult word to pronounce, okay, but this term, okay? So here is the important point now. Listen to this, guys. This is where the point is. From the intimate manner in which they are associated with the Iberians by classical writers, coupled with their agreement in what? In small stature and swarthy complexion. Okay, it's telling you that these Ligurs, along with the Iberians, that they were in agreement when it came to this description, guys. Okay, they both had small stature and swarthy complexions, guys. Very important stuff. Remember, I've already showed you guys in the American Dictionary of the English Language that was published in 1828 that swarthy means what? Black as an African. Okay, so this book is telling you right here that these Iberians, the population of Spain and Portugal And the people here were what? They had a swarthy complexion. Very important stuff, okay? It may be inferred with tolerable certainty that they were related to each other as the Frank to the Goth or the Dane to the Norman, and that they belong to the same non-Aryan branch of the human race. They just told you that the population of Spain and Portugal belong to the same non-Aryan branch of the human race. Okay, so whenever you hear the word Aryan, you are talking about a ethnic group within the Caucasian race, guys. Okay, but they're telling you right here in this book that the Iberians, along with these other people called the Ligor, belong to the same what? Non-Aryan branch of the human race. These are not white people here, guys, okay? These are people with swarthy complexions. Very important that we do not forget that description, okay? Now, listen to this, guys. We're not done yet. It is also by no means improbable that the small, swarthy Etruscan, now I don't know why they keep calling them small, but it's telling you that even this Etruscan, they were a swarthy people as well, guys. Okay, so many swarthy civilizations, so many swarthy peoples lived in the area that we call Spain and Portugal today. Okay, they lived there long before the Caucasian race showed up, guys. Okay, very powerful stuff. And guess what? All these people, they belong to what? Listen to this. They belong to the same non-Aryan stock, guys. Okay. So these swarthy Etruscans, their empire extended in the earliest times, recorded by history north of the Alps in Tyrol, and who held dominion also over Lombardy. Now, these are all locations in Europe, okay? I'm not going to pretend to know where each of these places are, okay? But listen to this, guys. All these people, they belong to the same non-Aryan stock of the human race, guys, okay? They are not Caucasians. Very powerful stuff. In my belief, the Iberians of France and Spain, the Silures of Wales, the Ligurs of southern Gaul and northern Italy, and the small, dark Etruscans are to be looked upon as ethnological islands associated by successive invasions, pointing out that if we could go deep enough in the past, we should find that the whole of Europe was inhabited solely by swarthy, black, non-Aryan population. Damn! This guy is telling you that if you go back in the history of Europe, you will see that before the Caucasians were in Europe, the people who were there were swarthy, black people, okay? These are the secrets of the past that we need to uncover, because right now, white people run the world. And one of the things that you have the power to do when you run the world is you have the power to rewrite history, okay? You can tell your kids that, oh, white people were always in charge of Europe. Well, that's not the case, guys. Even this writer is telling you that if you go far enough back in history, in fact, not even too far, I would say 500-600 years, maybe 7, you see that the people who were ruling Europe before were a swarthy, non-Aryan population, okay? They were not Caucasians. They were a black people. The word swarthy means what? Black as an African, okay? And this is true of the Iberians, of France, Spain, and Portugal as well, okay? Powerful stuff here, guys. We need to do our own research. We cannot keep watching all these shitty movies that Hollywood makes. Hollywood, I know this is going to sound crazy to some of you, but Hollywood was established by the Khazarians. Yeah, those people that claim to be Jews today to push their propaganda, their own fake version of history, guys. That's what Hollywood is for.
The house I live in, a plot of earth, street.
Modern America first saw light on a Hollywood screen. It was largely the product of 6 movie studios established in the 1920s and run for over 30 years by a group of Jewish immigrants. They had strikingly similar backgrounds.
All races and religions, that's America.
Yes, they also use Hollywood to make, all these movies that make money. Yeah, those are the secondary objectives of Hollywood. The primary one, guys, is to push the lying narratives. And one of those narratives is that Europe was always dominated by white people. That's a massive lie, guys, okay? So let's see another page. Okay, so here we are, right?
Okay, any comments on that? Okay. This is the one I wanted to deal with right here. It's some need to know information about the Samaritans. Anybody know who the Samaritans are? No comment? Okay, well, we know in 2 Kings, chapter 17, when the king of Assyria came, took the 10 tribes out. He brought other races of people and placed them in the land where the Israelites is at. The Israelites was taken to Assyria. That's who the Samaritans are. They living in the land because the king of Assyria brought them there. They living in the land of the 10 tribes, but they're not Israelites. And then we know that the Lord of hosts was killing them because they wasn't on his people. And then they didn't know the manner of his laws, his statutes, his judgment, how they operate. So he was sending lions and killing them. So they asked King of Assyria to send some of the Levites there to teach them how to deal with the Lord of hosts in their land. So he taught them how to. They taught them the ways, the statutes, and the statutes and the way how to live in the land. And so they did that, but they kept on worshiping the other gods they had. So, but the main point is they're not Israelites, but they've learned they converts, just like the people that are now.
Story lovers, welcome back to the Bible Stories channel. Today, we dive into an intriguing theme that echoes through the pages of the Bible. Samaritans, why were they so hated? This is a fascinating and meaningful chapter that reveals the complexities of relationships between people at that time. Before we begin this journey of discovery, if you are not yet subscribed to the channel, click the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to don't miss any of the exclusive content we've prepared for you. Now let's unravel the mysteries behind the hatred of the Samaritans. Have you ever heard of the Samaritans? This people was considered one of the greatest abominations by the Jews and was often avoided even by foreigners. But what is the origin of this hatred? What made the Samaritans so despised by society at the time is what you will discover in today's video. Hello, welcome to the Curious Bible channel. Before watching, subscribe to the channel and activate the bell to receive the next content firsthand. And without further ado, let's get to the video. The term Good Samaritan is often used to describe someone who helps others, but few actually know who the Samaritans were in the Bible. The Samaritans were a group of people who lived in the region of Israel after the Syrian conquest. They survived until the time of Jesus and still exist in limited numbers today. The Bible tells several stories about the Samaritans, and hatred between Jews and Samaritans is a recurring issue in the Gospels. To understand the origin of the Samaritans, it is necessary to go back to the days of the kings of Israel. After King Solomon ruled the Israelites, his son Rehoboam took reckless actions in the 10th century, which led to corruption and sin in both kingdoms, despite the warnings of the prophets sent by God. As a result, God announced that they would be conquered by other peoples. The northern kingdom was worse than the southern kingdom, with a line of wicked rulers. In 722 BC, the northern kingdom of Israel fell to the Assyrians, and many Israelites were taken to Syria as captives, but some remained in the land and married foreigners. These half-Jewish, half-Gentile people became known as Samaritans. In 586 BC, the southern kingdom...
You see how he twists that story? I'm gonna go back and reread it. So we know that it tells you he took all of them out. Let me read it right quick. So, I mean, 2 Kings, chapter 17, and we see it right here. It says, Starting at verse 19, chapter 17, verse 19. Also, Judah kept not the commandments of the Lord their God, but walked in the statutes of Israel, which they had made. In Israel, the 10 tribes. And the Lord rejected all the seed of Israel and afflicted them and delivered them into the hands of the spoilers. And until he had cast them out of his sight. For he rented Israel from the house of David, and they made Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, king. And Jeroboam drove Israel from following the Lord and made them sin, a great sin. For the children of Israel walked in all the sins of Jeroboam, which he did, and they departed not from him. Then 23, verse 23, 2 Kings 17:23, until the Lord removed Israel out of his sight, as he had said by all his servants, the prophets. So was Israel carried away out of their own land to Assyria to this day. Not some of them, all of them was taken out. So he wants to say that some of them stayed there and intermingled with the people around them. No. So verse 24 says, and the king of Assyria brought men from Babylon and from Kirkuk, these heathens, and from Ava, and from Hamath, and from Seraphim, and placed them in the cities of Samaria. That's where you get the word Samaritan from. Of Samaria, instead of the children of Israel. And they possessed Samaria, and they dwelt in the cities thereof. Don't say what he said. That's all that's tied to this myth about the 10 lost tribes.
Of Judah fell to the Babylonian Empire. When the walls of Jerusalem were breached, the temple was destroyed, and the city walls torn down. The first biblical records of the Samaritans are found in the books of Ezra and Nehemiah, which date back to the 5th century BC. When the Persian Empire replaced Babylon as a power regional, Nehemiah, a Jew, obtained permission from the Persian king to rebuild Jerusalem. But the local Samaritans objected and created problems for Nehemiah and his work team.
So let's look at that. Let's look at that right quick, because this has to be understood. And we're trying to go to the next level. So go to Nehemiah. We've been reading this story, but I don't know if it registered all the way. So we go to Nehemiah. First of all, Daniel 9:25 said that they were going to return, the Israelites were going to return from Babylon after 70 years and rebuild Jerusalem and the wall. That's what Nehemiah come in at, because that's what Nehemiah doing. He went back and Nehemiah's rebuilding the wall, right? So let's look at it. Verse chapter 3 of Nehemiah, verse 1. Then Elishabad, the high priest, rose up with his brethren, the priests, and they builded the chief gate. They sanctified it, and they set up the doors of it, even unto the tower of Mia. They sanctified it unto the tower of Hanah. And if you keep on reading that, you'll see that they is dealing with the wall. In verse 24, after him repaired Benaiah the head another piece of the wall, and from the house of Azarah unto the turning of the wall, even unto the corner. This is the wall right here in Daniel 9:25. So Nehemiah and them came back and they rebuilt this wall. Then it says in chapter 4, verse 1, Nehemiah opposed and ridiculed. But it came to pass that when Sanballat, this is a Samaritan, one of the descendant of the people that the Assyrians brought there, when Sanballat heard that we were building the wall, he was wroth and took great indignation and mocked the Jews. See that? So they want you to think in the New Testament, when Jesus, JC is supposed to talk to this Samaritan woman, like she's an Israelite. She ain't no Israelite. And when you go back to the story, you see that's another kink in the story right here, where they was trying to trick it out. It says, and they took great indignation and mocked the Jews, the Israelites. So how can they be Israelites when they mocking the Israelites? It's because of who they are. Just like these people over there now, they didn't obtain the knowledge of our culture, and now they got beside themselves and hating the real people. They sitting there duplicating and copying off our religion and our culture and hating the real people. It's like these people. The king of Assyria brought them there, got priests and chose and converted them. Now they hating on the real Israelites. They don't want them to come back and get their land. They don't want them to rebuild the temple, rebuild Jerusalem. So, verse 2, and he spake before his brethren in the army of Samaria and said, what do these feeble Jews, will they fortify themselves? Will they sacrifice? Will they make an end of in a day? And when they revive the stones out of the heap of the rubbish which are burned. Now, Tabor, that's another one, or Ammonite, was by him, and he said, even that which they build, if a fox go up, he should even break down the stone wall. So he mocking them. So my point is this too, that you have to see. Same thing's going on now. The real Israelites is being mocked. And you got the converts posing as the real Israelites. This ain't nothing new. Okay?
Nehemiah made one at 14. This conflict was the beginning of a long period of enmity between the Jews and the Samaritans. In ancient times, Samaria was the capital of the northern kingdom of Israel. After the fall of Israel, the region of Samaria was located in the center of what used to be the northern kingdom. During Jesus' time, Samaria was between Galilee to the north and Judea to the south. Currently, the region of Samaria is located in the north of the West Bank, where a few hundred Samaritans still live and follow their faith based on the Pentateuch and Mount Gerizim. Why were the Samaritans so hated in Jesus' time? The Samaritans were widely despised by the Jews due to a number of factors. First, they were considered a mixture of spiritually corrupt Israelites and pagan foreigners who had created a religion that the Jews considered heresy. The Samaritans had their own center of worship on Mount Gerizim and their own unique version of the 5 books written by the Pentateuch while rejecting the writings of the prophets and Jewish traditions.
Same thing today.
Furthermore, the Samaritans considered themselves the true descendants of Israel and preservers of the true religion, while they considered the Jerusalem temple and the Levitical priesthood to be illegitimate. When the Jews returned to rebuild Jerusalem, the Samaritans opposed the rebuilding efforts, which led to further hostility as the two sects were established in the land in opposition to each other. To the Jews, a Samaritan was more despised than a Gentile, as the Samaritans were seen as half-breeds who contaminated the true religion. These historical theological differences created a deep and lasting division between Jews and Samaritans in Jesus' time. Who was the Good Samaritan? Jesus often taught more spiritually through parables or stories. One of his most famous...
Now it's time to clean it up.
I will reimburse you for any extra expenses you may incur. Luke 10:30-35. The Good
So get the picture. Anybody got any comments on that? Okay.
Shalom.
Okay.
Was when Solomon was building the temple, and those people who came there, were they who were they that disguised themselves as um, Hebrew Israelites that
You
wanted to
mean
help?
when Zerubbabel was building the temple?
Say that again, sir.
You mean when Zerubbabel was building the temple?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, when Zerubbabel was building the temple.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So those are the people that the king of Assyria brought there. They're heathens.
Okay.
And
Yes.
they had converted them just like the people today. They converts. But now they didn't got beside themselves because they've been there so long. They think they the real Israelites. They don't want the real ones to come back, which is prophecy from heaven. That the angels brought down to the prophets. They're going against prophecy. Same way with this New Testament. It's going against prophecy. They done wrote their own what they want. It's not the truth. Okay?
And now those are the ones that's in Israel today. They're not the true
They're not the true
Israel.
Jews. Same with this. The same way when Zerubbabel and them came back from captivity in Babylon, and it was the real, wasn't no the fake people was in the land, and they tried to stop him from rebuilding the temple. Same thing is happening now. You got fake Israelites, so-called fake Jews in the land that's posing as the real Israelites. Nothing new under the sun.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, we'll open it up for some Q&A. Anybody have any questions or comments about yesterday or the Shabbat last week or something they came across they want to talk about?
Yes, sir. Shalom. Yes, sir. I do. Um, the question is, did the Lord of Hosts make a covenant with the women, or just with the men? And how can we have a covenant with the Lord of Hosts?
Well, when you understand the order, so, he has a covenant with the man, and the man has a covenant the woman has a covenant with the man. That's how they fit in. That's how they fit into the covenant. It's each man has a household. That's why when the conversation goes on, when the beginning, when the Creator saw Adam, and he said that Adam was alone, and Adam needed help me, and so Adam had a seed. Adam was one, the man had a seed in him, but he had nobody to carry the seed, to bring the seed forward. So he made him help me. So each and every man bring forth seeds, and he has a household. So the woman was in his household. That's how she fit into the post. That's how the culture is meshed together, well together, is that like those angels. They more superior than man. So the angel is their Lord. The angels are our Lord, and then the woman is our Lord. The man is the woman's Lord. That's how it all, the authority is passed down like that. Just like same way with the anointing. You know, it says anointing, you anoint the person at the top of his head, and the anointing and the oil runs down into his beard and then down into his garment. But so it's the same way with that, with the creation. We have Yahweh, Lord of hosts, these angels, and then man, and then woman, and the children. It's all part of. They all got, because the man or the head of the household has a covenant with the Lord of hosts. Everybody in the household got a covenant through him. That's how it works.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Okay. Thank you. Oh, shalom.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was looking it up because I wanted to make sure that, what if there is no male in the home and you're a single person? So how what what happens then?
Well, you gotta that was like with the priesthood. He took the Levites to himself. So all these Levites that's why you see in the story of with the women with I can't think of her name, Samuel mother. She wanted a son, so she went and prayed to the temple to the Levites, and then through them they prayed to the Creator on her behalf. That's how it works. Until you find a uh, uh, head over you. That's how that works.
Hannah.
So
Say again.
I said her name was Hannah.
Yeah, Hannah. Hannah played, and she got, but she didn't go to Lord. She went to Levites, which was think his name is Aaron's, one of Aaron's sons. He had grandchildren. He was Aaron's grandsons, but I can't think of the guy's name, but he's a Levite. And he had two sons. He was a high priest, Eli, I think. Yeah, and so
Shalom.
they had
So
to
is
with
there?
him.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Forgive me. Continue.
No, I'm
Is
finished.
there any way that women can help preserve the covenant? Oh, okay. I said, is there any way that women can help preserve the covenant of God, God's covenant? Is there any way that we can help
Well,
preserve the covenant of God?
they preserve it by playing their role, like they help me and rearing the children and being obedient, just like the man is obedient, just like the man is subject to the Lord and to these angels, they subject to him, and they
Okay.
believe in these angels, these righteous angels. They believe in what they say and what they tell him. They believe in him, so it goes downhill.
Okay.
What you believe in what these angels, what he believe in what the angels are telling him and showing him and leading him, and so he's bringing that leadership that they gave him to his house, and the people within the household got to believe that he's you know what he's following is proper the way he believing and trusting in him, that what he's doing and the way he's leading the house is righteous.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I just want to know another role women can play. I mean, part the women have in as a helpmeet, and
Right.
that's one of them to help preserve the covenant by being under the
Yeah, right. It's just like I said with the angels. You got in chapter 10 of Daniel, Gabriel says that he tells Daniel Israelite, and he says, it's two people that's looking on the book of life in heaven, me and your prince, Michael. So Michael is over the house of Israel. Okay, but it's seven other angels and it's other angels too, but it's six other holy angels besides Michael. But when you look at the story, for example, in Genesis chapter 18, Lot bound down to the other two. So even though Michael, the prince of Israel, those everybody, all the Israelites still subject to those other seven. So it's the same way with the man. He got a household and he got wives and all that, but those wives are out and about. They still have a certain amount of respect they have to show the other men they come across. Same way with that with the angels and man. You got a head over you, but still is a certain authority that he gave man. Just like the children, you might have 5 children, and the mother, all the kids are subject to that mother, and then other women come around, they have to pay. They got to pay the other women that come in their presence same respect that the mother have. They can't disrespect the other women just because they're not their mother. That's how it works.
sir. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Right. Mm. Anybody else?
Shalom, everyone. I just wanted to piggyback off the conversation we had last night in reference to the bodies that were buried in Jackson, Mississippi, right?
Okay.
So I was reading another story today, and it was saying that they did not even embalm these people. They just buried them in the body bag in a shallow grave, right?
Right.
And one of the attorneys that was working with Ben Crump was saying that when they went out to grave sites that there was just buzzards flying, overhead, just hundreds of them, right?
Right.
Because of the smell and the graves being so shallow. So they did not show them any type of respect whatsoever. And the lead detective stated that he called one time and did not get an answer for the young gentleman that was hit by the police car, the one that had his wallet in his front pocket. And he tried to reach a family member one time, and after nobody answered, they didn't bother to try to contact the family anymore. Didn't go to the house or anything.
Right. Who does?
Right.
Right. Except
Yes.
a demon.
Yes.
Right.
Exactly. So you can imagine that smell at those grave sites. Like, it
Yeah.
had to be terrible.
Exactly. Is that
Yes.
something?
Yes. Yes, sir. And one more thing, Brother Leonard, I don't know if anybody else have read up on this story or have been following it. In Sierra Leone, right? They have always had a drug problem with Kush, but now they are saying that they are digging up these dead bodies and getting only the bones and are grinding up the bones in the Kush.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay, I'm really trying to get an understanding behind that. So I done a little more research, and they were saying it was because of
Voodoo.
say that again, sir.
Voodoo. Go ahead.
Right, and the sulfur that is in the bones, like if you inhale so much of it, it makes you feel as though you're really high. So, and it's the teenagers that is really affecting. I was listening to a story today, and it was from like 14 years old that they are really getting strung out on this Kush. And when you're on the Kush, it makes you like a zombie, basically.
Right.
So I thought of that, like, why in the world would they start going to dig up these bodies, but then only taking the bones?
Right. And then you gotta look at who told them that.
Right.
Who told them that sulfur was in the bone? That the bone that the sulfur was gonna make you high.
Hmm.
Somebody had to tip them off on that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. So
So they're having certain people do this, and they are calling them the grave robbers. They have people that go out and do this, and I guess take these bones back to the dealers, and they're grinding up these bones and mixing it with the Kush.
right. Is that something? Like I
Yes.
said, to me it sounds like it's tied voodoo involved in witchcraft.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Is that something?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Oh, Shalom. So when it says bringing back the when the bones shall rise, it's not speaking on now. It's speaking on when King David was alive, and when he passed, the bones shall come back, awaken.
That's associated with Ezekiel 37.
Yes, sir. So it's nothing to do with today's time when someone passes.
No, no, Ezekiel 30, no. Not
Okay.
no. Right.
Thank you.
Mhm. Okay. So everybody good? Anybody else have anything? Okay, so like, I think we stopped on chapter 6 in the book of Esther. Let me see how many chapters is in there. Okay. Got 9 chapters, 10 chapters. Somebody want to read chapter 6?
Yes, sir. Shalom. Esther chapter 6, Mordecai's deeds made known. On the night On that night could not the king sleep, and he commanded to bring the book of records of the chronicles, and they were read before the king. And it was found written that Mordecai had told of Bigthana
Right.
and Tresh, two of the king's chamberlains, the keepers of the door, who sought to lay hand on the king Ahasuerus. And the king said, what honor and dignity hath been done to Mordecai for this? Then said the king's servants that ministered unto him, there is nothing done for him. And the king said, who is in the court? Now Haman was come into the outward court of the king's house to speak unto the king to hang Mordecai on the gallows that he had prepared for him. And the king's servant said unto him, behold, Haman standeth in the court. And the king said, let him come in. So Haman came in, and the king said unto him, what shall be done unto the man whom the king delighteth to honor? Now Haman thought in his heart, to whom would the king delight to do honor more than to myself? Verse 7. And Haman answered the king, for the man whom the king delighted to honor. Let the royal apparel be brought which the king useth to wear, and the horse that the king rideth upon, and the crown royal which is set upon his head. And let this apparel and horse be delivered to the hand of the king's most noble princes, that they may array the man withal, whom the king delighted to honor, and bring him on horseback through the streets of the city, and proclaim before him, thus shall it be done to the man whom the king delighted to honor. Verse 10. Then the king said to Haman, make haste, and take the apparel and the horse, as thou hast said, and do even so to Mordecai the Jew that sitteth at the king's gate. Let nothing let nothing fail of all that thou hast spoken. Then took Haman the apparel and the horse, and arrayed Mordecai, and brought him on horseback through the street of the city, and proclaimed before him, thus shall it be done unto the man whom the king delighted to honor. And Mordecai came again to the king's gate, but Haman hasted to his house mourning and having his head covered. And Haman told Xerxes, his wife, and all his friends everything that had befallen him. Then said his wise men and Xerxes his wife unto him, if Mordecai be of seed of the Jews before whom thou hast begun to fall, thou shalt not prevail against him, but shall surely fall before him. And while they were yet talking with him, came the king's chamberlains, and hasted to bring Haman unto the banquet that Esther had prepared. That was Esther chapter 6, Mordecai's deeds made known.
Okay. Any comments on what you read?
So is this when Haman found out that Mordecai was uh, instructing Esther?
No.
Is that what happened?
No. So if you go back to, like I was saying, understanding these are the ways. This is how you find out. Uh, my objective is to always show the Lord of hosts in it, because
Okay.
they took him out of the stories. But
Right.
when you read, so this is one of the ways how to see how he worked, how he operates. So did not he brought the 9 plagues in Egypt to the Pharaoh, and then he told Moses he's gonna let Pharaoh decide his own fate.
Yes, sir.
So when Moses went back again and told him what the Lord had said, let him go, he told him, I don't want to see your face no more. You are Aaron. Says, and then he says, I'm gonna kill all the firstborn. Right? Pharaoh told Moses that he's gonna do that to the Israelites. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So what the Most High do? The Pharaoh pronounced his own destiny on his own self. When he said, I'm gonna kill all the
So this,
firstborn, because then
okay,
Lord turned killed all his firstborn, right?
right, okay. So is what
So
happened to Haman?
yeah, Haman is, you got to go back to who Haman is. Haman is the king of the Amalekite king, Agag, that the Lord told Saul to go and kill all the Amalekites. And Saul went to go he killed all the Amalekites, but he kept the king and his wife. And she was pregnant. So when Samuel the prophet, who had went and told him what the Lord told him to do, came to where he's at, he saw Agag standing there with him. And he asked him, what you doing? Like, didn't the Lord tell you to kill everything? And Saul said he marveled at Agag, because Agag was a giant. He was tall. So Saul marveled at his height. But before Samuel had got there, Agag's wife had snuck off in a caravan that took her to the Medes and Persians.
Okay.
That's how Agag, that's how Haman got into the where the Medes and Persians was at. His mother fled there, fleeing from the Israelites. So he was raised. His mother told him the story of how they lost all their nation. The Israelites destroyed them, and the God of the Israelites had sent them Saul to kill all of them. So Agag's objective is to kill all the Israelites because of what they done to his people. So when you pick up what you read, he already told the king that these Israelites was wicked. So the king told him, do what you please with them. And so Agag, Haman, which is now the Lord of Hosts.
Okay.
Haman is the Lord of Hosts. So how did he become the Lord of Hosts? What you just read. Mordecai informed the king that the Lord of Hosts that he had got 2 men to poison him.
Okay.
So Mordecai saved the king's life.
Right. So it's like his good deed was overlooked. So somebody got okay.
So the kings, when you picked up the story in chapter 6, it says, on that night, it's the Lord of Hosts working. On that night, could not the king flee, right? Because the Lord of Hosts on his mind. And he commanded to bring the books of the Chronicles that they had read before the king, and it was found written in there that Mordecai had told the 2 men that was going to poison him. Mordecai and Tishra, the 2 king chamberlains, the keepers of the door, who had sought to lay hands on King Ahaz. They sought to poison him and kill him, because the Lord of Hosts was going to become king. If he had king killed, then he going to go be next in charge. But Mordecai overheard the plan and spoiled it.
Okay.
So the king killed the Lord of Hosts. Haman was next. So Haman became Lord of Hosts. So now, verse 4, the king said, who in the court? Now, who was in the court? Go back to what happened with the Pharaoh. So Haman is preparing to put Mordecai and all the Jews on gallows and kill them and hang them. And so when the Lord of Hosts put on the king's mind to elevate Mordecai because of what he had done to save his life. So he comes out and he tells Mordecai in verse 4, the king said, who in the court? Now Haman was come in to the outer court of the king's house to speak unto the king to hang Mordecai. See that? He was ready to hang Mordecai on the gallows that he had prepared for him. And the king's servant said unto him, behold, Haman standeth in the court. And the king said unto him, he conceded. So Haman came in, and the king said unto him, what shall be done to the man whom the king delighteth to honor? So the Lord of Hosts put on the king mind to honor Mordecai. Haman think he talking about him.
Mm.
See
Okay.
that? So Haman says, like just like the Pharaoh did, put his own foot in his mouth. So verse 7, Haman answered the king, for the man whom the king delighted to honor, let a royal see you think it's him. Let a royal apparel be brought, which the king used to wear, and the horse that the king rides upon, and a crown royal which is set upon his head. And let this apparel and horse be delivered to the hands of the one of the king's most noble princes. That's him. He's saying, okay, and that they may array the man with whom the king delighted to honor, and bring him on horseback through the streets of the city, and proclaim before him, thus shall it be done to the man whom the king delighted to honor. Now here you go. He put his own foot in his mouth. He thinking it's him that's gonna get honored. So 10, then the king said to Haman, make haste, take the apparel and the horse, as thou hast said, and do even to Mordecai, the Jew. See that?
Mm-hmm.
So Haman stuck his own foot in his own mouth, like the Pharaoh did. So that's how the Lord always work. So
Right.
anyway, that's why Psalm 37 said, fret not for evildoers. You know what I mean? So
Yes.
anyway, yeah, so that's what we at. In chapter 7. Anybody want to read that?
Yes. Chapter 7. So the king and Haman came to the banquet with Esther the queen. And the king said again unto Esther on the second day at the banquet of wine, what is thy petition, Queen Esther? And it shall be granted thee. And what is thy request? And it shall be performed, even to the half of the kingdom. Then Esther the queen answered and said, if I have found favor in thy sight, O king, and if it pleases the king, let my life be given me at my petition, and my people at my request. For we are sold, I and my people, to the to be destroyed, be slain, and to perish. But if we have been sold for bond, bondmen, and bondwomen, I had held my tongue, although the enemy could not damage. Then the king, um, I cannot
Yeah,
pronounce his name,
Hazardous.
Ashurasha, answered and said unto Esther, the queen, who is he, and where is he? And durst pursue in his heart to do so. Then and Esther said, the advisory and
Adversary.
the adversary and the enemy is this wicked Haman. Then Haman was afraid before the king and the queen. And the king arose from the banquet of wine in his wrath, went into the place garden, and Haman stood up to make request for his life to Esther the queen, for he saw that there was evil determined against him by the king. Then the king returned out of the place garden,
Palace.
that's palace garden, forgive me, into the place of the banquet of wine. And Haman was fallen upon the bed whereon Esther was. Then said the king, will he force the queen also before me in the house? As the word went out of the king's mouth, they covered Haman's face. And Hakabar,
Harbona.
Harbona, one of the chamberlain, Shamanly said before the king, behold, also gallows 50 cubits high, which Haman had made for Malachi, who had spoken good for the king's standard in the house of Haman. Then the king said, hang him thereon. So they hung Haman on the gallows that he had prepared for Malachi. Then was the king wrath pacified. What is that?
Pacified.
Pacified. No, is this when he, because Haman had made those things, because if I can remember, he went when he came home to tell his family that he was going to be next in line, and that the king was going to do these things for him. And his family members told him, well, I think it was his wife told him, go ahead, go through with the plan that he had. And so him and his people built those things for the hang Malachi's head on, and killed the people and placed them on there on those cubits, um,
Gallows.
those gallows. And he took and did the king took not only Haman, but his whole family and placed them on there.
Right. So
Wow.
Haman in chapter 6, what Michelle had read, Haman made this big old extravagant display. He thought that it was him going to be on the horse. It was him going to have a robe on and the golden chain and all that. So, but the king told him, yeah, go do that to Haman, and you're going to be the one that's going to be walking the horse. You're going to be the prince that's walking out in front of him with the horse and walk all through the streets of Babylon and telling all the people, glorify Haman. So after Haman had done that, he was humiliated and went home and told all his people. Verse 12.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because he supposed to walk
Right.
Malachi through the whole place.
Right. So after that
Yeah. Okay.
he was humiliated after that. So in verse 12 of chapter 6, it says Mordecai came again to the king's gate, but Haman hastened and to his house mourning and having his head covered. So he was ashamed. Right? And then 13, and Haman told Zerah, his wife, and all his friends everything that had befallen him. So he told them how he got humiliated. Then his wife turned around and told him, them Israelites, they God gonna always you always gonna end on the bottom. So it says in 13, and Haman told Zerah, his wife, and all his friends everything that had befallen him. Then said his wise wife, see that? It's like Abigail, his wise men, and Zerah his wife unto him. If Mordecai be of the seed of the Israelites, before whom thou hast begun to fall, thou shalt not prevail against him, but shall surely fall before him. So, like I said, go back to the Pharaoh when he had the Most High put 10 plagues on him, killed his firstborn and all that, and ruined Egypt. The Israelites was gone. He came and pursued behind them. So the Pharaoh was in his chariot with his Lord host with him, and his Lord host told him, "Look what he's doing. He just opened up the Red Sea. Leave these people alone. Let's turn back and go back now." But he didn't. Same thing right here. His wife just told him, "Be gone. You just been humiliated. It ain't him. It's his God that did that for him. Go on about your business." But he didn't.
His mischief is coming right back up on his own head. It's like,
We see
you
the old
know,
man again.
yes.
Like right now, we see these people getting humiliated after all the lies and twisting the Most High word and all that. We at the end. We see what he doing. Doing the same thing he did to Haman, same thing he did to Pharaoh, same thing he did to Amalek with Sarah. Okay, Somebody want to read chapter 8? You don't, I'll read it. Or somebody just read out chapter 8, right?
No, sir. Cheryl just read chapter 7.
Somebody want to read chapter 8? Okay, I'll read it. On that day did the king Ahasuerus give the house of Haman, the Jews' enemy, unto Esther the queen, and Mordecai came before the king, for Esther had told what he was under her. And the king took off his ring, which he had taken from Haman, and gave it unto Mordecai. And Esther set Mordecai over the house of Haman. So we see the same thing happened to Joseph. Same thing happened to Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Same thing. 3. And Esther spake yet again before the king, fell down at his feet, and besought him with tears to put away the mischief of Haman, the Agagite. Agagite. So you see that word, take that I-T-E off of that's Agag. That's the king that Saul spared. Agag. That's why he's the Agagite. And his device that he had devised against the Jews. Then the king held out the golden scepter toward Esther. So Esther arose and stood before the king and said, if it please the king, and if I have found favor in his sight, and the thing seemed right before the king, and I be pleased in his eyes, let it be written to reverse the letters divided by Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite. So just the mama, the one I told you just stole away in the night and got in the caravan. That's Agag's wife right here. Hammedatha, the Agagite, which he wrote to destroy the Jews, which are in all the king's provinces, right? For how can I endure to see the evil that shall come upon my people? Or how can I endure to see the destruction of my kindred? Then the king Ahasuerus said unto Esther, the queen, and to Mordecai the Jew, behold, I have given Esther the house of Haman, and him they have hanged upon the gallows, because he laid his hands upon the Jews. Write ye also for the Jews as it liketh you, in the king's name, and seal it with the king's ring, for the writing which is written in the king's name, and seal it with the king's ring, may no man reverse it. Then were the king's scribes called at that time in the 3rd month, that is the month of Sivan, on the 23rd day thereof, and it was written according to all that Mordecai commanded unto the Jews, and to the lieutenants, and to the deputies, and the rulers of the province, which was from India unto Ethiopia, 127 provinces, unto every province according to the writing thereof, and unto every people after their language, and unto the Jews according to their writings and according to their language. So here again, right here, to show you about the 10 tribes. So he says, Haman has sent out a decree that all the Jews under Ahasuerus' reign, he had 127 provinces. So Assyria is one of them. So 10 tribes is in the province of Assyria. So Haman wrote a letter for all the Jews to be killed. You got Judah, Benjamin, and Levi in Babylon, in Shushan. So Haman sent the letter out to kill all of them. Now Haman sent the letter out, now Mordecai commanded the scribes to send another letter out after Haman got killed, and it says, and to the lieutenants and to the deputies, rulers and of the provinces which are from India to Ethiopia, 127 provinces, unto every province according to the writings thereof, and according to every people after their language, to the Jews, Israelites. Yeah? So that's all of them. Ain't no lost 10 tribes. Say, unto the Jews according to their writings and according to their language. And he wrote in the king Ahasuerus' name, and he sealed it with the king's ring, and sent letters by posts on horseback and riders on mules, camels, and young dromedaries, wherein the king granted the Israelites, which were in every city, to gather themselves together and to stand for their life, and to destroy and to slay and to cause to perish all the powers of the people and provinces that would assault them, both little ones and women, and to take the spoils of them for a prey. Upon the day in all the provinces, upon one day in all the provinces of King Ahasuerus, namely upon the 13th day of the 20th month, of the 20th month, which is the 12th month, which is the month of Adar. The copy of the writings for a commandment to be given in every province was published unto all people, and that the Israelites should be ready against that day to avenge themselves on their enemy. So the posts that rode upon mules and the camels went out, being hastened and pressed on by the king's commandment, and the decree was given at Shushan. That's where the Levite, the southern kingdom at. Shushan, the palace. And Mordecai went out from the presence of the king in the royal apparel of blue and white, and with a great crown of gold, and with a garment of fine linen and purple. And the city of Shushan rejoiced and was glad, and the Israelites had light and gladness and joy and honor. And in every province, in every province and in every city, whithersoever the king's commandment and his decree came, the Israelites had joy and gladness, a feast and a good day, and many of the people of the land became Israelites, for the fear of the Jews fell upon them. That goes converse right here. See that? Any comments?
So he got a chance to wear purple, and I know purple was a significant
Yeah, that's royalty.
color.
Purple is royalty. That's royalty. Okay. Any comments on chapter 8?
No, sir.
Okay. I guess I'll read chapter 9. The Jews destroy their enemies. So, what you want to do is notice what happened. It was time. This prophesied. All this was prophesied, and so it came to pass. It came to pass that they was delivered. See what I'm saying? They've been there for 70 years. It's like right now. How can we be getting ready to be persecuted? We already went through the persecution. So how can we be getting ready? So right here, when the time for them to be delivered, he delivered them. He had Haman killed, and the Jews, and we see where the Jews rejoice. Well, that's where we are now. We already been through the persecution. We're going to be saved, and then Ahasuerus gave them authority to defend themselves. Same thing now. Those people right there hated the Jews then. We amongst people that hate us. It's going to come. We're getting ready to come into a time when we're going to be able to defend ourselves. We're going to be delivered. Okay? So it says, chapter 9, the Jews destroy their enemies. See that? That's what we're getting. That's where we at. Now, in the 12th month, that is the month of Adar, on the 13th day of the same, when the king's commandment and his decree drew near to put in execution in the day that the enemies of the Jews hoped to have power over them, though it was turned to the contrary, that the Jews, the Israelites, had ruled over them, that hated them. See how he flipped it? The same thing we had now, before we had now. It's flipped. 2, the Israelites gathered themselves together in their cities throughout all the provinces of King Ahasuerus to lay hands on such as sought their hurt, and no man could withstand them, for the fear of them fell upon all the people, and all the rulers of the provinces, and all the lieutenants, all the deputies, and all the officers of the king helped the Israelites, because the fear of Mordecai fell upon them. For Mordecai was great in the king's house, and his fame went out throughout all the provinces. For this man Mordecai waxed greater and greater. Thus the Jews smote all their enemies with the stroke of the sword, and slaughter and destruction, and did what they would unto those that hated them. And in Shushan, the palace, the Israelites slew and destroyed 500 men. And Perillus and I don't know his name, Dalphon, Aspas, Apora, Ada, and can't say all his names. Keep on going. And 10 sons of Haman, son of Hamada, the enemy of the Jews, slew them. But on the spoils laid not their hand. And on that day, the number of those that were slain in Shushan palace were brought before the king. And the king said unto Esther the queen, the Israelites have slain and destroyed 500 men in Shushan palace, and the 10 sons of Haman, what have they done in the rest of the king's provinces? Now, what is thy petition? And it shall be granted thee, or what is thy request further? And it shall be done. Then said Esther, if it please the king, let it be granted to the Israelites which are in Shushan to do tomorrow also according to this day's decree, and let Haman's 10 sons be hanged upon the gallows. And the king commanded it so to be done, and the decree was given at Shushan, and they hanged Haman's 10 sons. For the Jews that were in Shushan gathered themselves together on the 14th day also of the month of Adar, and slew 300 men at Shushan, but on the prey they laid not their hand. But the other Israelites that were in the king's province gathered. See that? It's the 10 tribes right here. But the other Jews, Israelites, that were in the king's province gathered themselves together and stood for their lives, and had rest from their enemies, and slew their foes 75,000, but they laid not their hands on their prey. And on the 13th day of the month of Adar, on the 14th day of the same rested they, and made it a day of feasting and gladness. But the Israelites that were at Shushan assembled together on the 13th day together, and on the 14th thereof, and on the 15th day of the same they rested, to make it a day of feasting and gladness. Therefore the Israelites of the villages that dwelt in the unwalled towns made the 14th day of the month of Adar a day of gladness and feasting, and a good day, and spending portions one to another, sending portions one to another. And Mordecai wrote these things and sent letters unto all the Jews that were in the province of King Ahaz, both nigh and far, to establish this among them, that they should keep the 14th day of the month of Adar, and the 14th day of the same yearly, as the days wherein the Jews rested from their enemies, and the month which was turned into them from sorrow to joy, and from mourning into a good day. They should make them days of feasting and joy, and of sending portions one to another, and gifts to the poor. And the Israelites understood to do as they had begun, and as Mordecai had written unto them, because Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, the enemy of all Jews, had devised against the Israelites to destroy them, and had cast Pur, that it is the lot, to consume them and destroy them. But when Esther came before the king, he commanded by letters that his wicked device which he had devised against the Israelites should return upon his own head, and that he and his sons should hang at the gallows. Wherefore they call these days Purim, after the name of Pur. Therefore all the words of this letter and of that which they have seen according to the matter, and which had come unto them, the Israelites ordained and took upon them and upon their seed, and upon all such as joined themselves unto them, so as it should not fail, that they would keep these 2 days according to the writings and according to uh, the appointed time every year, and that these days should be remembered and kept throughout every generation, every family, every province, every city, and that these days of Purim should not fail from among the Israelites, nor a memorial of them perish from their seed. Then Esther the queen, daughter of Abihail, and Mordecai the Israelite, wrote with all authority to confirm this second letter of Purim, and he sent the letters unto all the Israelites to the 120. There you go again. The 127 provinces of the kingdom of Azareth with words of peace and truth, to confirm these days of Purim in their times appointed according to Mordecai the Jew, the Israelite, and Esther, the queen, had enjoined them, and as they had decreed for themselves and for their seed the matters of the fasting and their cry. And the decree of Esther confirmed these matters of Purim, and it was written in the book. Okay. Any comments on chapter 9?
Shalom. Yes, sir. I believe if they didn't do anything, if they didn't go against Malachi, they probably would have been saved. But their arrogance and everything, like you was reading, they came upon them, and that's how they got slain. And then the prominent people, I don't think they helped them, not because they were nice and everything. I think they helped them because they were scared of Malachi, because how his reputation went through the whole cities and everything, how he was favored by God and the king. So they were scared. So they helped. I guess they helped from fear, not because that they were nice people. The providence.
Right, right. When you see that, when you see the fear of the Lord upon them, ain't it 7 angels there? Ain't the Lord host there with these other angels?
Yes, sir.
They the ones putting the fear on the people. He did the same thing in Egypt. He caused the fear to be on them, making them afraid. Just like they would cause people to turn in and start fighting against each other. They doing that. Right. So I want to shine a light on something like quick. Show you. So we see in Ezekiel chapter 38 that Israel, this prophecy haven't happened yet, that we're going to be regathered and we'll be in peace, dwelling in unwalled villages, right? In chapter 38 of Ezekiel.
Yes, sir.
Well, look right here. It says, uh, we start at 16, 9 and 16. But the other Jews that were in the kingdom of province gathered themselves together and stood for their lives and had rest for their enemies and slew of their foes 75,000, but they had laid not their hands on their prey. On the 13th day of the month of Adar, this during the time of Esther and Mordecai, and on the 14th day of the same rested day, and made it a day of feasting and gladness. But the Israelites that were at Shushan assembled together on the 13th day thereof, on the 14th day thereof, on the 14th day the same, they rested and made it a day of feasting and gladness. Therefore, the Jews of the villages that dwelt in unwalled towns, see that? Therefore, the Jews of the villages that dwelled in unwalled towns made their 14th day of the month. So ain't nothing new under the sun. See that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So chapter 10, I'll read this. So 3 verses. And the king Ahaz laid a tribute upon the land and upon the isles of the sea, and all the acts of his power, right, and his might, and the declaration of greatness of Mordecai, whereunto the king advanced them, as they are they not written in the books of the chronicles of the kings of Media and Persia? For Mordecai the Jew, the Israelite, was next unto the king Ahaz, and great among the Israelites, and accepted the multitude of his brethren, seeking the wealth of his people, and speaking peace to all the seed. So we see right here the same thing, the way he raised Joseph up in Egypt, he raised Mordecai up right here. So Mordecai ended up getting Haman's position. Haman was second in charge. And the other host flipped it around where Haman got killed, Mordecai became second in charge. Okay. Any questions or comments before we close out?
Shalom, no, sir. Thank you
Okay.
for the reading.
All right. So if everybody good, we're gonna see everybody tomorrow for our men's Bible study on Clubhouse. Shalom, shalom, shalom.
Shalom, shalom, everyone.
All right.
Shalom.